Electoral battles in Northern Ireland tend to fall one of three ways. Republicans take on Unionists, Republicans take on other Republicans, or you get what happens here in the constituency of North Down, which is not your average Northern Irish constituency, where Unionists square up to other Unionists. Now, in 2008, this story took a very interesting twist when David Cameron announced that the British Conservative Party was going into partnership with the Ulster Unionist Party to form what they called a new force and somehow revive democracy. But some people here really aren't happy about that at all. Until last week, Sylvia Herman was the Ulster Unionist Party's only MP in Westminster. But chiefly because she refuses to stand on a joint ticket with the Tories, she's now decided to go it alone as an independent.
I'm just not a Tory. I mean, my father, as I say, had a 50-acre farm. I grew up in abject poverty on an isolated farm in rural Tyrone. My father was never going to be a Tory. So it's just not me. It simply makes me desperately uncomfortable. I am not a Conservative.
Can you take that down to sort of policy brass tacks or in terms of political ideology and identify things about the Tory party that are just not you at all?
It's a very deep fear right across, I think, many constituencies. What exactly does a policy of austerity mean? What does George Osborne mean in terms of Northern Ireland? What would it mean for our budget settlement through the Barnett formula? I look at what the Labour Party have delivered in Northern Ireland. It's called peace. It's called peace in my time. I grew up through 30 years of mayhem. And whatever criticisms are levelled at Tony Blair over the Iraq War, I would like people just to remember what has been achieved here in Northern Ireland under a Labour government headed by Tony Blair, and that was the Belfast Agreement.
Sylvia Herman's decision to leave the UUP has further complicated the already tangled state of unionist politics.
Sylvia Herman has split the vote here, I think.
Traditionally, there are a lot to choose from here, unionist parties.
Too many.
Really?
Yes.
What's the essential difference between the DUP and the UUP?
Very little.
One's probably more unionist.
You get UK unionists and progressive unionists and traditional unionists. DUP, UUP, PUP.
Oh no.
TUV,
TUV.
Traditional unionists.
Well, you see, that is the real unionist.
They're really hard line.
Yeah.
I guess one interpretation of your move might be that it's in keeping with that tradition of unionism eternally prizing itself apart. How do you feel about that?
Well, yes. I have been depicted as this is typical of North Down. I'm sorry, I didn't want to be typical of North Down. From my point of view, my party has left me, I have not left it.
North Down is not only famous for its unionism.
North Down, locally a lot of property folks would call it the Gold Coast, on the basis that obviously it's near the sea, there's a lot of golf clubs, there's a lot of yacht clubs. It is quite an affluent location now. Everyone here enjoys a good quality of life.
Which might explain why David Cameron wants to get a foothold here. And you'll be glad to see him here?
I'd be delighted, yes. I mean, we have been insular in our politic, and anything that can bring another dimension, give another choice. I expect they will have difficulties procuring a significant part of the vote. That's no doubt about that. But for me, I welcome it. The war may be finished, but we're still stuck with the war politicians.
Now, there are plenty of parts of the North Down constituency that aren't nearly as prosperous. This is the Kilcooley estate, which is the third largest housing estate in Northern Ireland and really a byword for working class unionism. And I'd imagine that this place probably isn't quite as receptive to David Cameron's conservatism as some people would like to think. David Cameron, the Tory leader, has struck a deal with the UUP, so their candidates run on a joint Conservative UUP ticket. What do you think about that?
Garbage. I don't think it's a good marriage, and I think if the lady Sylvia goes independent, if she has gone independent, she'll walk it.
It's just the perception that they're very they're more upper middle class, and this is a very working class area, and I don't think that there's much support shown for community in the Conservative Party.
Sylvia has turned around and stated herself that if she was to come in here under Conservative ticket, how would she expect the people to stand behind that as well? Because, I mean, there are working class people in this estate, and I don't think there would be Conservative voters.
Do you reckon Sylvia might have done herself even more good by making the stand that she has? In other words, she might increase her levels of support?
I think when you look at the political field at the moment in Northern Ireland, there's absolutely no doubt that her own party treated her like a piece of dirt. I think the fact that she's gone independent and people are now clearly given the marker, I think you'll see that Sylvia Herman will be first past the post.
Last week, the prospective candidates for the Ulster Unionist and Conservative Party came into our offices and asked what was the issues that would be affecting us in a state like this. We had said 3 of the issues would have been housing, education, and the legal highs it's going about at the minute, because it's affecting our community in a big way at the minute. And he basically had to ask how you spelt legal highs, because I had told him to Google it. So that shows you how much in touch they are with communities like these.
Somewhere like, say, the Kilcooley estate, which I'm not that far from, there are people there, you think, who are quite welcoming of the idea that the Conservative brand is available to them as a political option.
Well, if you think of the work that I've been doing with the Ian Duncan Smith think tank, these things are highly relevant in the Kilcooley estate. But, you know, and we have had a division within North Down where people in Kilcooley and elsewhere, in Redburn, Lochview, in Whitehill and places like that, have felt separated from the rest of the constituency in some way, not really part of what goes on at council or at constituency level. And it's up to us to turn that round. But we can't do that if, for example, we don't make it easier for parents to return to work, if we don't make it easier for people to overcome worklessness, if we don't make it easier to overcome educational underachievement. And most of that will be done at Westminster, and they will want an MP who is accountable directly to them for what happens at Westminster.
Is he a threat, do you think?
Ian Parsley is a local councillor. Ian Parsley was a very, very good candidate for the Alliance Party last year in the European Parliament elections. Those elections took place in June, and by the 11th of September, if my memory serves me correctly, last year, Mr Parsley chose to join the Conservative Party.
Is that an awkward thing for you? Does it feel strange?
It hasn't felt strange at all. The Alliance Party was set up to get away from purely sectarian-based politics, and I think the Conservative-UUP link-up does the same thing. And I think it is, in fact, the best way of moving politics forward. I found that under the Alliance ticket, they were never going to be in a position to deliver the sort of influence at every level, European, UK and Northern Ireland level, that was required to really
So what's your vision here, that by voting for someone on a UUP Conservative ticket, because you're part of a larger whole within the UK, somehow then people here have more influence, their voice counts
They
for
do
more?
indeed.
In what looks like a show of support for Sylvia Herman, and in what they claim are the interests of unionist unity, the DUP has said it won't be putting up a candidate in North Down.
Well, at the moment, both the Conservatives and the Ulster Unionists not seem to have simply shot themselves in the foot. They seem to have almost disemboweled themselves over the last few weeks. I mean, I think that we believe that we can actually achieve best through the leverage of being an independent party at Westminster. Clearly, Lady Herman would have also difficulties with the link-up, maybe on more ideological grounds, of the link-up between the Ulster Unionists and the Conservatives. So again, from that point of view, we're in a not dissimilar place. I think in most constituencies, if you had a sitting MP effectively moving to becoming an independent, in most cases, most constituencies, that would be effectively a death knell for that member. If anything, in North Down, it could be seen as a bit of an advantage.
I found it extremely painful and a very, very difficult decision. I wanted to be able to stay within the party, change the party, make it a progressive, liberal, inclusive unionist party that would be attractive to young people coming along, who would be my son's generation.
I've spent the day travelling across the North Down constituency, from well-heeled Helens Bay via the working-class Kilcooley estate to Groomsport, trying to get a sense of the messy and divided state of modern unionism. And now I'm back in Bangor. From all the encounters I've had today, I'd say one thing was really clear. Given how highly regarded she is around here, I'd be really surprised if Sylvia Herman didn't keep this seat. But there also might be a sharp irony at work. After the election, the parliamentary numbers are likely to be really tight. And I wonder, in trying to extend his kind of conservatism into Northern Ireland, might David Cameron have actually increased the chances of someone who effectively would be another MP for Gordon Brown? We're a long way from mainstream British politics here, but even so, this might turn out to be a really important seat.